And away we go. It is the BCJ Podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail, live from the Cincy Light Studios right here on BearcatJournal.com. Anytime you're downtown at the Banks, maybe going down next weekend, next Friday night to see the Bearcats take on the Dayton Flyers. We will have an event at the Holy Grail next Friday before the game. More details on that to follow. But make sure you stop by and see our good friends at the Holy Grail. Great food, great drinks, and of course, every Cincy Light you buy from the Holy Grail, an additional 50 cents will be donated back into the Cincy Reigns NIL Collective to take care of the athletes that you support at the University of Cincinnati. Also, from Cincy Light, it's Crosstown Shootout weekend. Ryan Geist will be at the game with the Cincy Light pop-up shop featuring tons of sweet Cincy Light merch, including a very limited edition Cincy Light basketball t-shirt. If you want to grab one, show up early. If you have any Cincy Light fans on your Christmas list this year, head on over to shop on cincylight.com. Loads of Cincy Light gear to load up your man cave. And again, if you're headed to the shootout, stop by the Cincy Light pop-up. Tons of merch, including the Cincy Light basketball t-shirt. All right, let's get this show on the road. It is a big one tonight. And everybody this is a shout out to everybody that's drinking Cincy Light, because you helped bring this man back to Clifton. Joined by the Godfather, Dontay Corleone. Dontay, well, it's been a long time. You've been asking for like 5 years. When do I get to come on the podcast? All you had to do is not come back once. You had to come back twice. Now you get on the show.
Yeah. I'm glad to be here.
So just straight up, what is it about this city you love so damn much, man? Why does it mean so much to you?
Yeah, just a loyalty, man. You know, we just had 2 losing seasons back to back, but people still showed up. Like, they didn't have to show up to come support us. So it's like them small little things. And they always support anything in my NIL. So it's like, it's nothing I can complain, man. I just love them.
David?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I wanted to start is, you know, we've known for a couple of years that the NFL is very much in your future. And you know, it's the old cliche of you write down the pros and the cons. But is there something, whether it's personal, family, whether it's just the way that this season left, when you really sat down to make that decision, was there one thing that kind of stood out above the rest that you said, man, I really just I just want to come back again? Or was it just an overall just feeling that you just felt like it was still time to be a Bearcat?
Yeah, there's multiple things. First of all, it's my health concern. Like, people don't know the unknown, like, need like the treatment for it. So like another year of showing them I can still prove I'm a good football player at a high level with that type of treatment, and having a good game plan with Aaron and Coach Brandon Garcia, of me just doing extra work on the side or just doing all the small things like that, I can't beat. And also just improving my draft stock. You can always do that. So those was the 2 main factors. And I took like a week off last week, and I just talked with my uncle and mom the whole entire time. And then I had to sit down with Coach Stu. That blew my mind. He put the pros and cons and we set out a good game plan. If I came back, and he said if I would have declared, he still would be behind me. So it was like a win-win situation.
Where did the potential of getting drafted somewhere that didn't have Skyline fall into the like rankings of do I come back or do I enter the draft?
Yeah, it's nothing like having a Skyline for 1 more year, so I can't complain with that.
Sorry, Chad, go ahead.
I was going to say, how close were you to potentially exploring the draft and going that route? Was it a tug of war with yourself trying to make that decision?
Yeah, because it's like last year was like my mindset is like one and done. Like, okay, I came back for another year. This will get better, improve. Then the health scare happened. Then my mindset is still leaving after TCU. But like once TCU ended, it was like a hard, like I needed a week. If not, I didn't want to rush into nothing. So I took the week off. But it was really hard. It came down to Friday. And then I told him Saturday I was going to come back. But like that Friday was very hard. Like I think it's going to be one of the hardest decisions I ever made in my life. But I made sure I was happy with the decision I made, though.
Now that you have made that decision, you talked about Coach Stewart and the conversations you guys have had as you transition into the off season and then spring ball and everything. Whether it's feedback from agents or the draft group that kind of gives out recommendations and stuff, what are the main things that you really want to focus in on, just strictly as a football player, improving this next year to obviously help the Bearcats, but put yourself in the best position when next draft rolls around?
Yeah, I got two things. Always improving my pass rush. So that's probably my number two. And then number one is my just overall eating better, like being more mature as far as that aspect of just eating better, having a better diet, and getting ready for the next level. So that's like the two main things.
How long did it? Let's go back to the health scare. Take us through all that. Like what kind of tipped you off? What wasn't feeling right? I know. I think I've taught when my wife got sick. One of the first things, she had a blood clot in her lungs, and kind of like that was the thing that tipped us off. What physically was going on where you're like, something's not right here?
Yeah, it was a Sunday, so I think it was like on a little break on the weekend. And I always do some extra far as cardio. And then I felt a little weird, like a little weird feeling in my back. And I'm like, all right, that's just normal because I deal with it during the season because I had back pain during the season. So I'm like, I just shrugged it off. Then the next day, I always love to laugh and giggle all the time. So when I'm laughing, it always, like, my chest always hurting. And I'm always just reaching at it every time. And then that night, it was like I woke up and in like 13 seconds, I couldn't breathe. But I was so confused. I didn't know what it was. So I'm like, all right, I play football, so it's nothing. I can deal with that. So the next day I told Aaron and them, they sat me out of practice and everything. We did a lot of studies. And then I eventually did one more workout before I got sent to the ER. And I couldn't run or lift. But somehow I strained through it. And I'm like, yeah, Aaron, I think it's something really going on. And then eventually he found out I had PEs. And I'm like, and it just shook in my entire world. Because I'm like, first of all, I never heard of it. And then I'm like, geez, where did it come from? Because I'm walking upstairs normal, and I'm not breathing like different. All I'm doing is coughing, but I don't know. Like I think I just had like a cough or something. So it was confusing though.
How did you get through it? I mean, what was the thing that kind of helped you once you found out things were going to be okay? There was a treatment plan. It was I'm sure at first it's scary as hell because it can be deadly. But how did you get through the whole thing?
But I'll never forget me sitting in the ER. I was just bawling my eyes out, man. And Aaron Himmler just told me, like, you're going to play football again. And it just oozed my whole mind. Like, I went back to normal, like, very back confident that I'm going to play football again. And I believed in that, man. And then I was going to North Carolina was big, too. They didn't have to take me all the way out there to see if I could play football again. They could have just shrugged me off, but they did not. And, like, things like that just goes a long way for me.
Did you talk to Stu? I mean, it wasn't the same thing, but he had kind of that moment in his career where he was faced with football mortality, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, he told us that in the beginning, but he was just more like just being behind me. Like, he didn't even bring up the situation. He just said, if you need anything. He also called me like 4 times a day, him and Coach White. I'm like, geez, I'm not dead, man. But things like that is like, it goes a long way because they didn't have to do that. And then Coach White literally brought me food when he didn't have to do that. And he brought his kids with me, like, and that just brightened my day up.
Was it, as you started to feel better and, testing and stuff was looking good, was it hard to not know, like, okay, I'm feeling better, but I'm not sure when they're going to clear me? And then, like, as those steps as those benchmarks kept crossing for you, was it like, okay, now when do I get to play? Like, when do I get to play football? And just the anxiousness almost of like waiting till you can finally kind of go back to normal, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that was like fall camp. Like, I was running every day. It was one day I just wanted to throw my helmet in the woods because I'm like, geez, I got to do something other than running. So it was like that. But like, go back to Coach G, he was like, man, just keep going. You're going to eventually get to where you want to go. And then once they told me about me coming back after Towson week, it's just like, I was just so happy. Like, I don't know if I wanted to sleep at all that night just so happy and enjoying I could play the game I love so much.
Dontay, let's go back to kind of the early stages of this, because I've always been fascinated. You committed early.
Yeah.
You didn't camp, you didn't do the thing. I think at one point you and Fletch were the two lowest rated recruits in the recruiting class. I, behind the scenes, kept trying to tell the people like that's incorrect, but they're like, nobody's seen him. Like, was that a chip on your shoulder anytime you pulled that up and saw like the last rated recruit in the class was Dontay Corleone?
Yeah, because it was like, I understand not going to camps and nobody saw me, but I'm like, geez, you pull up the tape. I'm doing a lot of good things. But also, it's like, I still look at it to this day, like to see the people who's in front of me, see if how they doing. I check what school they at. Just things like that is always motivating. Even to this day, even though how much accolades I got, it's still not enough for me. I want to still like compete like at the highest level. And I feel like I'm glad they actually put me there, because put me at the high level is just going to put me like, I'm just going to be satisfied with it. But I'm glad how it happened. Like, I'm glad they put me in last.
Let's go on the field this year, and just once you got out there, just give us an idea of like how would you grade yourself? Like, as far as your performance this year, what do you think you were doing well? What do you think when you watch the tape, you're like, man, I could have done a lot better there. Like, what do you think of your season this year?
I'll give it like a B plus, because it was like some place I could have easily made, but just you can tell I didn't play football in the last 3 months. Like first game, I missed like 6 tackles, but I also flashed at the end, because the more reps I got was the most like I got used to playing again, getting the feel of it. But like it was some games you can definitely tell I didn't have. You can tell I missed 3 weeks of off-season training because just the cardio was just gone, because it was just not there towards the end. But I would say the overall season was great for me, because I just came back from a layoff for 3 months and made all conference. Like I cried all day when I figured out I was all conference again. So it was like you really can't complain.
How long did it take you to get back up to speed? Like how many games do you feel like it before you were yourself again?
I would say Texas Tech was, because I just felt like I was just more dominant, more strong, just pushing the guy back in the line of scrimmage, and I was also feeling like the best overall shape that I could be all season. So I would say Texas Tech.
You had your line group had some unfortunate injuries at the outside of the season that we didn't get to see. I saw a little bit of practice. Chad saw a lot of practice, but tell the fans and everybody listening, like, what to expect from guys like Micah and Jalen now that you're coming back, and the three of you guys and some of the other guys. Where do you think this defensive line can go this next season?
For me, just bringing all the attention for us to double teams, and then bringing a guy like Micah Coleman that's like 6'4", 6'5", just having the overall length we can bring to the table now, because that's what we really was missing with like EP and them. Having Jay Hunt, calling out the plays before it happens, like a Briggs type of guy that's calling out plays before it happens. It's just a overall veteran presence that we was missing towards the end of the season. Like you can tell we was missing them type of players. But those players work hard. Micah and Jay Hunt, I always see them in the weight room. They always the last people to leave. So it's like I expect a lot from them this year.
How devastating was it when Hunt went out? Because that was kind of going to be your like running mate, your sidekick, and to have it happen that early into camp, like it kind of was a crushing blow.
Yeah, because it hurt. Because me being out, I kind of stepped to the side a little bit, let him take over the role of the leader of the D line. And then when he went down, it's like who you look towards. And I told EP he was the guy, but Hunt was a devastating loss, because it was like a guy that can, once I'm out, ain't no really like a drop off. He can also help have a level of presence that they got to know where 90's at. If not, he's gonna wreck the play.
Who are some of the young guys that you're excited about in your room to get more snaps this next year?
Easily Marquez Parker. Like, even though he can definitely a freshman, he talks so much, but it's like he's a great kid, man. Like, he got so much potential. He don't even know it yet, and I'm gonna keep staying on him, because Yeah, because he only had a couple plays and he flashed. Like sometimes he flashed, but imagine if he had 25 plays. Like it's going to be a big difference. And then Lendrick, try to get him back in the weight room, get him stronger. He's a big body. Kind of remind me of Malik as far as his body arc. And then I would say Drew Logan. He's like a walk-on guy, but he works so hard. I think he's the type of guy we should look out for during the spring because he had a pretty good spring. He kind of like went a little bit down during the camp, but he's another guy to look out for.
How much did you learn last year in terms of being a leader? And it's portal season, so you got guys coming in on visits for the next 3 weeks. Like, what did you learn from that? And what's your strategy now? I know Sorsby's on the phone calling wide receivers all over the country. What's your strategy to add to the defense and get you guys back up?
Yeah, so usually like these last 2 years, I usually just stay in the office for like an hour or two instead of just going home right away. I try to help Stu out the best way I can, or the recruiting guys, send a text out on phone calls with them, and also just being at the dinner. So I just try to make sure I shift my time to recruiting because we need these guys. And I think we had one of the best portal classes come in for us last year with Sorsby, Canteen, and Logan Wilson and the guys. So we're gonna try to repeat with that so we can keep improving.
You don't help Jack out, do you? That guy he's a weirdo.
Yeah, he's a sicko, man. I try to talk more with Zach because he's more of a calm individual. Jack will look crazy.
He's a sicko. There's our quote. UC recruiting department sicko.
Because he doesn't sleep. Like I'm like, Jack, you have to go to sleep, man.
We've heard some stories.
Yeah, I'm coming late out of I had to come back and run to grab some out of my locker, and I just see the light on in this office. I'm like, bro, go home.
He does. He's in the office.
Does he even does he have a home? Like if he's
I saw some clothes in the back, so he might have stayed the night.
If he pays rent somewhere, he's probably not getting his money's worth.
Yeah.
I think he's been in the building since October.
Yeah, because when you see him, the beard was a little trim, but when he came out the room, it was all down there. I'm like, geez, bro.
Obviously, the season didn't end the way you guys wanted. Yeah. You were so close on several games. From the outside, it certainly felt different than last year. How did you guys? What was the attitude like in the locker room and week to week, knowing that you were so close on several of those games and just for whatever reason couldn't get it done? Was there a big difference to last year, and how do you think that'll help shape you guys for next year?
Yeah, it's completely different. We got the DBs playing spades. Instead of them going home, they're playing spades in the locker room, just bonding. And then we have other groups like running backs hanging out with D linemen and et cetera. So it's not like a group type of team. Everybody interact with each other. So it's like a family. And we also gonna try to preach that in the portal. I was telling Stu how everybody personality is. I don't care about the talent. I just want to know how the person is. Because if it's a cancer, we can't bring him in. I don't care how much talent he got, how much we got to offer him. It's just things like that. I try to keep away from the locker room so we can have a good mindset coming in. Because we didn't have no argument last year, so we're gonna try to keep it that way.
The kids are still playing spades?
Yeah, I don't know how to play spades. Me personally, I just play video games. I know.
All right. I was gonna say we can partner up. I mean I might have played a little bit of spades back in the day.
You know who's actually surprisingly good at spades? Keelan Smith. He don't say two words, but he can beat somebody in some spades.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
So
he just says enough to tell you how many books he's got, and then he's quiet again.
Yeah.
Are you? I don't know how much it factored in. Maybe a little bit, maybe more, but the excitement level you have to see the practice facility and the performance center get finished and be a part of that, and like you talked about with the team bonding and playing cards and stuff, I'm sure that is something you guys are looking forward to. It's just another place, a bigger space for you guys all to hang out together.
Yeah, then we don't have to do mat drills in 0 degrees weather. We can actually have an indoor for once. So I'm excited.
I'm sure they'll still take you outside and do.
Yeah, knowing our strength coach Nico, he's crazy too.
Who's more crazy, Brady or Nico?
I love Coach Brady.
That's an impossible question to ask.
Yeah, but Nico a little bit more crazier. because he's a little Italian.
Coach Vite's defense. How did you feel like it progressed? It felt like as the season went on, you guys continued to get more and more comfortable. There were still some holes and still plenty of things to get better, but it felt like as a group, you guys really started to make that thing work a little bit as the season went on.
Yeah, because I think people don't understand, like, the last 2 years, 2 different DCs. We're learning on the go. So it's not like we've been on the system 10 years or 5 years. You've been here 5 years. No. We're learning on the go, but also we just keep adding new installs. So them installs we improving on, so we making adjustments. Like Coach Drew put me just 9-0. He put me in a 3-tech, 2-wide. Just things like that. It's showing them new looks so we can have the best option to win our one-on-one matchups or help the back end of getting the quarterback off the spot. And me personally, I think, like, towards the end, I started to get, like, more used to the defense, like just staying in one gap because I love the 2-gap lag. But I understand what he wanted me out of this. So it was like, I love the defense, me personally. And I think we're going to bring in the right people to help us in the back end, and we're going to have a good season.
Was Free here your redshirt year?
No, I had Tressel.
Okay, so you've had Tressel.
Yeah, but Freeman recruited me, though.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if he was here your red. So you've had 3 defensive coordinators in 5 years.
Yeah, then Chad Witt was the guy that recruited me for D-line. And then I had Greg Scruggs.
Wow. You've seen a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
I haven't thought of Chad Wilt's name in a long time.
He's kind of like a coaching vagabond. For a while there, he was taking a new job every year.
Yeah, he was at Indiana, then I figured where he at now.
I think Minnesota, and then who knows where else. But tell us something. We see Coach Vite from the sidelines, and I've seen him. I love the guy. He's like, to me, the quintessential defensive guy. I mean, I remember I was at one practice. I don't know if it was a scrimmage or what it was in Nippert, and somebody did something, and I heard him from all the way the way across the field, getting on somebody. But what is Coach Vite like, and what is he? How do you guys like playing for him?
Man, I love playing for him because he's also gonna always get us fired up, and also he's just gonna get on you, no matter who you is. Like, he got on me. I remember we was doing one-on-ones, and Coach Carwell put the snap count on 7. And I jumped it off 7 times. And then he sent me a clip talking about, come on, Dontay, we can't be doing that. But it's just like things like that. I just enjoy playing for him because he also going to love you, but he also going to coach you up hard. So I love Coach Vite, and I always like to make jokes with him, and I enjoy playing with him.
Chad Wilt, currently at Michigan State.
Wow.
There you go. He's just
right now.
He's going to hit the entire Big Ten by the time his coaching career is over.
Yeah.
Special teams and rush ends.
Wow.
I would have never guessed that one.
So Dontay, what are you going to do now? Before winter workouts start back up, probably, I guess when the semester starts. But what is kind of your end of semester and schedule looking like for this next little bit of off time that you guys have?
Me personally, I don't necessarily go to vacation. I never do a vacation. I try to stay around the campus as far as helping recruit. And if I'm not recruiting, I'm just going to try to work on I got a little plan with Coach Garcia, get more little workouts in there while we off so I can get back in top shape before we start running again. So those are my 2 main things. And then I'm also going to be coming to some basketball games. I haven't been able to make none of them.
Were you going to be there Saturday?
Of course.
There was a rumor you were going to wait to announce at halftime of the Crosstown Shootout, but that probably would have got out by then.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would your speech have been? Because I don't know. There has been one football player talk at the Crosstown Shootout, and that was Connor Barwin, who came back a couple years after he graduated. And I think his legendary line was, if Xavier had a football team, we'd kick their ass. And then Mike dropped and walked off the court.
Yeah. I don't know what I would have I couldn't top that, to be honest.
You could have repeated it. Like, that's the big thing now. Sequels, right? Everybody does they do the old thing again. You could have just repeated Barwin, mic drop, walk off the field or walk off the court and watch the place erupt.
Yeah.
That's right.
You got any more surprises on who's coming back?
We working on it, man. Hopefully this week we got a couple guys coming out. So
Okay. We won't tell anybody. It's just us here. We're just friends.
No,
media train, baby.
We're not going to get we're not going to get Dontay in trouble.
I know Zach watching.
I know. I was just checking my phone to see if Zach's already blowing me up. Leave Dontay alone. All right, man. Well, it is much appreciated for you to come on. It's been a long time in the making.
Yeah, no, I'm glad.
We finally made it happen. We'll get you on a Monday night here soon because I know Brent was in his feelings that you were coming on Wednesday instead of Monday.
Yeah, I definitely come back around.
He knows what show to come on.
He was like, Monday I'm busy, but I'll be on the Wednesday show.
Yeah. Get some of them transfers, big man. We need some more support.
I gotta make some calls right after this. Don't worry about it.
There you go.
Thanks, man. We appreciate it, Dontay.
We'll see you on Monday.
All right.
There you go. The Godfather, Dontay Corleone. He is so much better. Like he's comfortable now. The funny thing about Dontay was you could tell like he was outgoing and whatever, but he just wasn't that media training that he talked about. He hadn't gotten comfortable with it yet. And then each year when you talk to him, you could tell like a layer had peeled back and more, he was more and more comfortable.
Yeah, and I think there's always with especially with young guys, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, they're not used to having to talk to media or whatever. And so I think there's like always this level of apprehension of, I'm afraid I'm going to say something that someone's going to tell me I shouldn't have said. So I'm just not really going to say anything.
And he is warmed up.
Yeah, and you don't get to know their personalities as well because they're always, kind of walking on eggshells of like, oh, if I say this, maybe my coach is going to be mad at me for saying that. So I'll just, if you get the old Tiger Woods, if you give him a yes or no question, he's going to give you a yes or no answer.
Right. But yeah, I mean, you could really tell, especially like into this year.
Yeah.
Through the spring, like in spring ball, when you would start to talk to, you could see like he had come into his own. He had grown up. He had kind of shed some of that shyness. He's always had a big personality and a big smile, and his teammates have loved him. But you could tell he was getting a lot more comfortable in his own skin. So
definitely.
It's a big one to get back. You get him and Sorsby back. I know they're working hard on Royer to get him back in the fold. They did. Derek Canteen, who I think had an extra year left if he wanted it, declared for the draft today. So, best of luck to him.
Gavin
Gerhardt coming back. I know that was one. It felt like he was out of eligibility because he has been here so long, but still had an extra year left. And we had been hearing that one for a while that he was going to be back, but always good to have it official.
Yep, for sure. I mean, offensive line, I think, is going to be some level of question mark. So getting a guy back that's a 2-year starter, and if not more, I mean,
and a captain.
We lose track of, once all this coming year, we'll finally be done with the COVID years, right?
Yes, by and large. Like, I'm sure there's still going to be some medical red shirt guys but for the most part, yeah. Which, I mean, that's, we'll get into it here in a little bit, but that's what makes the transfer portal all the more interesting this year. And it's not going to be, there'll be a just as many guys in the portal, but maybe not as many guys that, have that, I'm utilizing my 6th year of college football because I redshirted during COVID, and then I got the extra COVID year, and now I've played 4 years, like 3 years. Like,
yep.
There's a significant chunk that's not going to be around anymore.
Right. Makes it easier for us at least.
It does. It does. We will. You want to go ahead and throw in an ad read and then get into some portal stuff, Dave, or you want to come?
I think that would be great.
All right. I think I can do that as soon as I pull it up. Turtles Brew. That Dontay Corleone interview brought to you by our good friends at Turtles Brew. 6% ABV, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free. It's a bourbon-infused sweet tea. They have lemonade tea, strawberry mint, cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla. There's over 50 locations in and around Greater Cincinnati, more than 100 in the state of Ohio. For more information, visit turtlesbrew.com to find where you can get the Turtles Brew fix nearest you. We'll save home field for the shootout. So let's discuss the portal. Not in terms of guys on the way out, Jordan Young being probably, I think, the only starter so far that we've seen enter the portal, right?
Yeah. I mean, Caitlin Carroll was a starter for about 8 games.
And then
Jordan Robinson.
Jordan Robinson and Ormani Arnold kind of moved up past him on the depth chart. Those are the type of guys that you have to, in this day and age, if you see a guy go from starter to not seeing him much towards the back end of the season, you've got to keep your eye on that as a possibility. Jonathan Harder, kind of in a similar boat. We saw him when Tinsley got hurt. Harder was the first guy up at guard, and then it felt like Evan Tengestal kind of moved ahead of him on that list. And I think the biggest thing with Harder was they loved his size and power, but he didn't have, especially for that outside zone that they like to run, he didn't have that ability to get out on the edge, maybe that they're looking for, that mobility that they want out of their guards.
Yeah, you've got to be able to get out and cut off be quick enough to get out and seal off or cut off the whatever, end or linebacker or whatever. So maybe that just wasn't in the cards that way. And I don't want to, anybody that left, I wish them the very best.
Yeah.
Hope they find
I think Harder in the right scheme, like in a straight ahead power blocking scheme. I think Harder can be a benefit scheme for somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're going into year 3. It is just an ultra critical year, and you need guys that can come in and absolutely contribute. Now that contribution might be a very solid depth piece, or it could be an immediate starter. But when you look at, and I asked you and Keegan this today if anybody had a PFF account, because I wanted to get an idea of the snap counts of the guys that had left, and it just doesn't feel like, even in the depth area, that the guys that have decided to transfer out, I didn't see a ton of guys that were like, maybe they didn't play a lot this year, but we were going to be counting on them to fill a pretty sizable role next year. So, again, we'll see what this portal class brings. It's totally different than high school recruiting. I mean, there's guys I imagine that have been on campus already, that will be on campus, not just on the traditional weekend visits. Like, they're going to be coming in and any day that they can get them here, essentially.
I mean, really what we're learning is, like, these first 2 weeks of the portal being open are like when the hay is in the barn, really. Like, visits are being scheduled immediately. Hell, Louisville had 2 guys on campus the day the portal opened. How does that happen, Dave?
I mean, they must have really, identified him and got in touch
that morning
with them
at 6 a.m.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because when you look at it, if you it is going to be weird though with the playoff.
Yeah.
Because, you look at it, you have this weekend or this week, I should say, and then next week. Then you get into Christmas. Like I don't want to say no one, but I find it hard to believe anybody's visiting on the Monday through Wednesday. And then you have the 26th, 27th, and 28th. But like, if you haven't gotten a guy, I feel like most of the guys that you want, that you've identified as like, we've offered, we want to get him here as soon as we can. Like, those guys are making decisions by the end of next week, I feel like. They're,
or at least in decision-making mode. Like, they might not have a decision yet, but they know they visited the schools that are of interest.
Right. They've taken multiple visits.
Right.
I know there's players that are making their visits more public, and I there's a running back that UC's interested in that is visiting here and is visiting 3 or 4 other schools, but that's all going to be done by next weekend. And he might not. And the other thing we need to keep in mind, these things change way, way quicker than high school recruiting. Like,
yeah,
a guy might say he's visiting and then doesn't visit. And then a guy that we don't even know about or that, all of a sudden just shows up. So, it's kind of a day by day thing. Did a guy show up? An offer, just like in high school, an offer doesn't necessarily mean that that's truly a guy that they're 100% interested in. I mean, you kind of have to throw out the offer and start the conversation just to get the chance to bring him on campus. And then
kind of talked about that last week.
And then you kind of find out once they're here, like, okay, like this guy, we like his tape, but he doesn't really mesh with the team or whatever. And so, that's, those things happen.
Yeah. And you're almost like reserving a seat at the speed dating table with the offer at this point. Like, oh, yeah. Hey, that is the sign of like, we're interested in you. We have offered. Now we can start talking. Like, that's not in high school recruiting. You build up to the offer, but in portal recruiting, it kind of starts with the offer is the starting point of we have looked at your tape. We think you're a guy that's good enough to help us. So here's the offer, and then we'll figure out the rest as we go. But that, I think that takes a little bit for fans to get used to is, well, all these offers are going out. Yeah, they're like placeholders more than anything right now. It is just a simple acknowledgement of we have interest. And you see where it goes from there.
Yeah, because, these guys are trying to make a decision and get enrolled. I'm not if I'm them, I'm like, I'm not visiting. I'm not even paying a bit of attention to anyone that isn't giving me an offer. Like, I have to find out as quickly as possible who is very interested in me. So, I'm certainly, the offer is the starting point. Then I do some research. Then we have more conversations about, okay, how do you plan to use me? What does the depth chart look like? Because, you have to also understand or take into consideration, these dudes have been playing for another team. Their season just ended. They have no idea, like, what does the UC defensive end depth chart look like? So they're doing, hopefully they're doing the due diligence on their end to find out, okay, UC offered me, but does it match up with what I'm looking for? Like, I might be looking for a big payday. I might be looking for a ready-made starting spot. I might be looking for, I know I'm a younger guy, so I'm looking a year ahead and seeing that my position group will be graduating a lot of guys or something, and then I've got a chance to step in and truly impact the team that way. There's just a lot of dynamics, and it's hard to keep track of it all and make sense of a bunch of it, just because the things change in this game probably hourly. A guy that you extended an offer to, and I always get leery of like the player is going to visit this school on Thursday, this school on Friday, and then he's got a visit set up to this school next week. I'm always like, that visit next week isn't going to happen. Like,
right.
A team is going to go hard on him, and he's going to make a decision before that visit comes up. So you're trying to get as many guys on campus as quickly as possible to be that first impression to hopefully, hey, I found my team, cancel these other visits, because it feels unrealistic that, like, if you're the fourth visit, that you're going to actually get to that visit.
And the Christmas kind of they didn't intend it this way, but the Christmas deadline, I think, is something that's very real in this new portal kind of timetable that we've gotten, because you're right, the biggest part in this is being enrolled by the start of the first semester or the second semester, so that you can take part in spring football, so that you can take part in the winter workout program and start, coaches. Satterfield talked a bunch about, like, the freshmen that enrolled early last year, how much of a benefit that was for them and getting onto the field early, because they were able to get here in January, be a part of the whole process. And then by the time that camp got here, they had already been in the program for 6, 7, 8 months. It works just the same for the portal guys.
You keep track of this better than I. With the way the playoff is there another window to allow any, like, how are they doing this with a guy that doesn't want to announce that he's going into the portal before his team maybe goes and wins the national championship? Is he just screwed until the spring one?
I believe you get an extra window from, like, the when your season ends. So,
but then can that guy get into school, though? That's the thing.
No.
So he can go into the portal, but he can't, like say you win the national championship and you're like, yeah, I'm going to get in the portal. He can go into the portal, but he can't actually then go enroll anywhere until the summer.
I mean, I think it's what, 2 weeks? It's 10 business days or whatever after the first day of classes.
Okay, yeah.
So you get essentially 2 weeks to enroll and start classes after the first day of classes. If you play the national championship game and you don't start the process until that's over, I feel like we've talked about this more than a couple times. They have to fix this schedule. I don't know that there's any way to fix that, Dave, because the schools are obviously not going to change their starting dates around the football transfer portal. I don't know.
If I'm a team in the playoff, I'm like you. I'm trying to win a national championship, and you got me having to worry about hosting dudes like on portal visits.
Yeah.
I think what they'll end up doing is they'll end up moving this, like, what is now week 0 will end up being week 1, and everything will move up into August at least a week.
But I don't think so, because I think they are set on having Labor Day weekend as week 1. Like, that's why week 0 is week 0.
Right.
Is because week 1 for college football is Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make it. None of it makes. I mean, they moved high school signing day was moved up 2 weeks this year.
Yeah.
It's usually like the third Wednesday in December, and it was the first Wednesday. And now you have the portal going on at the same time you're trying to win a title. It's just like, I am surprised though that we haven't seen more kids like say they're going to go into the say they're going to transfer but stay with their teams through the end of the season. Feels like I know there's one Ohio State kid that's in the portal. Maybe he's not even like a linebacker. Maybe he's not even with Ohio State anymore. Maybe you have to make that call of like, I'm giving that up to get into the portal knowing that I'm going to leave anyway. That's got to be I can't imagine working my ass off for like 2-3 years. Now I'm in a position to win a national championship, and I have to now say, put that to the side and go, I guess I'm going to get in the portal so I can find somewhere to play next year.
I just don't know how, because of the start of semesters, I don't know how you fix it.
Oh, like, I know. It's a hard.
Like, even if you move it back, you're still dealing with the same stuff. Like, you're still positioning the way that all this plays out for kids to be entering the portal after semesters start because they're playing for a championship, whatever. I agree. I just don't know what, like,
I don't
moving signing dates around and all that stuff, like that. Okay. Like, that doesn't really change anything.
No.
This, I don't know how you make it any different than what it already is, which is as soon as the conference championship weekend ends, the portal opens, you got 30 days. That 30 days pretty much coincides almost directly when most schools are going to be starting classes.
Yeah.
And you have to be at the finish line by then, or else you're stuck. You can commit somewhere, but then you won't be in classes till the spring. Josh says, let kids practice and work out without being enrolled. I don't know how you do that. Like, I think some of that would be insurance and related.
Yeah, from a liability standpoint, I'm not going to let a kid practice. And if I was a kid, I wouldn't, because if I got hurt, am I on my own? Like, I tear my ACL. I'm not enrolled in school. I'm not on scholarship. Now I have to pay for my surgery, where normally it would be covered by being on my scholarship.
I wonder if the answer is like an online program that doesn't start until like February 1st.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We can enroll you for these specific set of like general classes that are all online and they start February 1st. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud as to ways you can get around some of these decisions that I don't, like if you're a kid entering the portal after like New Year's Eve, like say your team gets eliminated New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or whatever, you get in the portal the next day, you've got like 8 days for the whole process.
Well, I mean, we'll have 4 teams eliminated the 20th/21st. So how many guys jump in immediately then and then do take visits like right before Christmas or right after Christmas in order to make a decision?
Those guys are going to be on campus since Christmas Day.
It's like, Merry Christmas, honey. I'm hosting a transfer. We'll open presents when I get home.
All the restaurants are closed, so we're having the official visit dinner at our house tonight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, what are our New Year's plans? We have 5 kids coming in for official visits. So
yeah, it's a lot. You and I were joking. Just UC specific, like, man, there's not much content right now. We don't have very much to talk about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see. I know that they've floated out this 12 to 14 number. I feel like that's probably still pretty accurate, given that I don't really think there's been any defections that truly surprised them.
Yeah, I mean, even like a Jordan Young situation, I think that's probably financial. It just, and that's the nature of when you're talking about retention and you want to keep your guys, and you've got a guy that maybe can go on the open market and get more maybe than you have slotted, then that kid, there's a good chance they're going to go into the open market. Like, and it's not a shot at anybody. That's us adjusting to the business that is college football. We see this happen in the NFL all the time.
It's NFL free agency. Some guys
go
sign for the biggest contract. Some go sign to win a Super Bowl. Some go sign because the team really, really needs them at that particular position. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, we have this much allotted to these main guys that we're going to keep. Then we got this much allotted for the next group of guys. And if you have the ability or the desire to hit the open market and make more than what, you see slotted, then decisions have to be made. Yeah. Marcus, that's 1 lap. It's 1 lap. You were late. You missed The Godfather. I'm letting you guys off easy tonight. Normally, if you're late, you owe us $5.
Yeah.
So
donate that $5 to Cincy Reigns and help us get some wide receivers.
Maybe save that $5. Go to the Crosstown Shootout. I found this out today, Dave.
Yeah.
The merch for Cincy Light.
Yeah.
Cincy Reigns gets 50% of that.
Oh, that's nice.
So, like, if you buy a case of beer, they get like $2. If you buy a $30 shirt, they get, after what, the cost of the shirt or whatever, they get 50% of the profits. So, like, you just buying the beanie hat that I've got in the other room that's I've been wearing all winter so far. Delightful. CincyLight.com. Get yourself some Cincy Light merch, or show up to the pop-up tent at the Crosstown Shootout. Grab some Cincy Light merch, and that is, even an even bigger donation into Cincy Reigns than, the regular 3 cases a week of Cincy Light that you drink at home.
Yeah, that's right.
If it fits your dome, it's got to be good quality.
It's good quality. It stretches. It's stretchy.
Just saying.
Big brain, big hat.
Right. I mean, you can't have a big brain if you don't have a big head.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think the positional needs are pretty clear. I mean, they need a kicker. I think they want another, running back with some experience to pair with Evan Pryor. We know they need wide receivers, plural. I think they'd like a big burly blocking tight end, and then defensively, somebody to get after the passer, maybe a linebacker or 2 for depth, and then 2 to 3 corners, and then maybe a safety if you find the right one. A corner with kick return, or I shouldn't say a corner, a player with kick return in their background.
Could be a running back.
Could be a running back. Could be a wide receiver. I know there are, and these guys have either told like a 24/7 guy that they're visiting, or they've announced like a public offer. There are a couple guys with some pretty serious kick return credentials. So we'll see if they're able to bring in one of those guys. But it'll be the portal to me is like you and I have talked about like being less and less interested in high school recruiting and the day-to-day of that, where I think it's like the opposite of the portal now has taken that over for me, at least, because there's production behind some of these guys. Like I can throw on a huddle tape and watch 5 minutes of some high school kid, and I can tell you what I like about him, but I don't have any idea about the competition he's playing. I don't,
Right.
At least with some of these portal guys, there's like quantifiable data behind them, whether it's baseline statistics, whether it's PFF grades, like you can make a much more, I don't know, just more calculated conversation, calculated determination on whether that's a good ad. I don't know about that ad. And there's this balance that I think you have to take of, at least for me, of power forward transfer with, depending on how many years he's been in school, limited to no production versus G5 or even lower transfer with actual production. Like how do you balance those two things out? Like, and we'll use Joe Royer as the perfect example. I will flat out say I did not understand the interest last year. I looked at the production, I looked at the age, and I said, what, like, been in school 4 years, had like 4 catches. I'm like, where are we going with this? He,
Right.
I think, is the absolute exception to the rule. I think if you went through every guy that transferred last year that had been in school for 3 or 4 years, that had very limited production, he might have produced more than any of them.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that versus, and coming from Ohio State, 4-star dude, how do you balance that versus G5 or FCS guy who's like a true sophomore or even a redshirt sophomore who has put up real numbers? Or in some cases, like I'll use this dude that he put it on Twitter, wide receiver from Lindenwood in Missouri, Ohio Valley Conference. 50-something catches, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns this year. 22 touchdowns over 3 seasons. Like, if you're going to be at that level, I want to see that you've dominated that level. Now, that doesn't mean...
Not 30 catches for 283 yards, 2 touchdowns.
In 2 seasons, right.
Right.
Like, now, that does not mean that it'll automatically translate up. But this is the same thing that draft people talk about. Like, if I'm going to draft a lower level guy, I want to see that he absolutely dominated. Like, you can use Jared Verse as the example. He dominated at Albany. He came to Florida State and dominated there, and then he's been very, very good for the Rams. So I know fans get into they're not going after enough P4 guys.
How the hell does that guy end up at Albany? I still don't. I never understood that from the minute he went in the portal. Because UC looked like Luke's staff was interested in him before they left.
Yeah.
And the minute his name came up, we both watched a little bit of him, and I remember sitting in the lobby waiting to do a show. What? How did he? I'll never understand how that dude didn't end up somewhere much bigger than where he did.
Yeah, I mean,
but I digress.
But P4 guy that has production, let's just be real, guys. We're probably not that's a money play.
Sure.
We're probably not affording a lot of those guys. Like Dane Key, the 5th all-time leading receiver at Kentucky, is transferring. He's visiting Georgia. It's either go to a place that's a perennial national championship contender or get a lot of money. And we're not, and probably both. Honestly, because that guy can go, Georgia, yeah, you win a lot of titles, but you're only offering me this. LSU doesn't win as many or hasn't won as many titles in the last few years, but they're offering me this. How bad do you want me? So I think it is a balancing act. It's a how do you grade those things? I think is incredibly hard. From what I can gather, I do feel like and again, they have to close on these guys. Everything we're saying right now doesn't really mean a hill of beans unless they are able to bring some of these guys in. I am seeing more players that they're interested in, at least publicly, with many more equated, similar offers to a UC than last year.
Right.
And I'm seeing guys with much more production than last year, and also I think I would even say more traits than last year, like bigger, faster, stronger type guys, and a lot. I want to say only of the 20, 25-ish offers that I've seen, maybe only a handful of 1-year guys. I mean, a lot of 2 and 3 years of eligibility left guys.
I think the other thing you have to keep in mind is we were also talking about last year, they were going to need 25 guys.
Right.
When you only need 12, you can be a little bit more narrow in your search because
Absolutely.
You're not like there was a desperate need for depth a year ago. So some of these guys you're looking at and saying, look, we need capable bodies for practice for the scout team, like to just come in here and help us out a little bit as we stabilize the roster. Now that you're in a more stable position, it benefits you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that also does go back to retention. Like, they've been able, even with the way the season ended, they've been able to, from at least for now, hold on to all the players that they really feel like they need moving forward. So that doesn't then open up, a 12 to 14, maybe 15 number doesn't all of a sudden turn into 20.
Right.
Or 22 or something like that. And I know we've talked about this. I think we talked about this. I don't know if it was with Zach specifically, but like the portal, especially with a lot of these younger guys, is turning into like an extension of high school recruiting. Like,
to an extent, yeah.
It's like, okay, I liked this guy, or maybe I like this guy and he's young, and he doesn't have the uber production yet, but because he's only been in school for a year or two, but he fits. He's proven that he can do the body development and all of that stuff that they talk about. And now we have a guy that can come in and play right away versus having to sign a high school kid and not know if they'll be ready to contribute this year or even next year.
College basketball is so stupid, Dave.
Oh, what's going on?
Kentucky's playing Colgate, who is 2-8. Kentucky opened the game on a 17-0 run. Like, it was 17-0 to start the game. They're losing 45-44 now in the second half.
Okay.
It's such a stupid sport. We touched on it a bunch yesterday in the nightcap and all that, but I guess we'll broach it here for a few minutes. Kerry Combs let go. They have now an opening at corner and special teams. I do think there's one more spot on the defensive staff that probably will open. I'll get that news to you as soon as possible. But it's unfortunate. It's a sad ending. I know you've known Kerry personally. Your family's known Kerry for a long time. Just your thoughts on moving on from Kerry Combs and kind of ending what was, a legendary run for a guy, and he may still coach again, but at least the Cincinnati chapter of Kerry Combs' career.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I've known obviously my family much more than me personally, but have known Kerry a long, long time, and he has been such a staple of Cincinnati football, be it Coleraine or UC, and that's what makes it hard. I mean, coaches get hired and fired all the time. I mean, like, I think that I saw a tweet today. I think that the current college football head coach tenure is one job is 4 years before they either take another job or get fired. So that stuff is not out of the ordinary. It's that the guy has been, and even when he left to go to Ohio State, he still just lived in Cincinnati. He's a Cincinnati guy all the way, and so that makes it that much tougher. But at the same time, it's a bottom line business. Then it's not just defensive backs, but they have 13 interceptions the last 2 years. I didn't run the numbers, but that's probably bottom 10, bottom 20 of teams in the country. I mean, there's several teams that had more than that just this year.
Right.
The pass defense, I don't think it didn't give up the big plays like we saw at the rate last year, but it was not really that much better. When you truly dig into the opponent, quarterback rating or yards per attempt allowed, or plays of X number of yards, it was pretty much in line with last season.
And some of that, Davis, they played 3 safeties. So by nature of the defense, there's a larger umbrella. You're not going to have as many things down the sidelines, over the top, that we saw the season before.
Right.
But we also saw, it felt like maybe there weren't as many 50-yard plays, but there were a bunch more 20s
and 30s,
25s. Yeah. So, while it looked, maybe it felt a little different, the pass defense was still ultimately ineffective.
Yeah. And, and then I don't, the actual field goal kicking issues, I don't necessarily put much of that, because almost nobody has.
Your special teams coach doesn't really coach kicking.
Right. I don't know if very few, if any, are have a kicking background, but you can't overlook the fact that the special teams as a whole, really, the last 6 games or so, fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
We haven't had any, excuse me. We haven't had any significant returns, it feels like, in forever. Now, in college, you don't see a ton of punt returns, but I thought Logan Wilson did a pretty good job. But how many kickoff returns did we have that start, plus 40? Any? I mean, there were some in the 30, 35 range where we started drives, but it just,
that 35 was about it. And
right.
That was rare.
That just wasn't there either. And, if you brought in a new defensive coordinator last year, and it was late in the game, so he wasn't gonna revamp the staff to fit his liking last year. Kerry was a holdover from previous. Coach Satterfield kept him, and it didn't work out these last 2 years, especially in the pass game. So, I from where I sit, I know I do this, but you and I look at this one way. I am not media. You and Keegan and Aaron, like, you guys go and you're on the field and they're in the press box and you guys go to press conferences. I don't do any of that stuff. I come on here and I talk and I run the Twitter account and I'm a fan. If there were no coaching change, no staff changes this year, and I'm still debating this, but if there were no staff changes this year, it would have been very, very hard for me to be like, I'm going to renew my season ticket. And I feel like there are probably several people that sit in that boat still currently, even with a move like this.
Right.
Like, you can't lose the last 5 games of the year and have 2 specific elements of your team not perform well at all and then just go, yep, we're just going to do this all over again next year.
Right.
And think that myself and a lot of other people would just be like, yeah, sure. I'll sign up for that.
I've seen this notion floated around that Kerry was scapegoated. We can't talk as much as we do about how this is a business now, like more than ever. So it's always been a business, but now more than ever, it is a results-driven, results-oriented business. And he wasn't getting the return on investment out of his groups that propel a program forward. And when you're in a league like this, where everything is one score, where everything is a coin flip, the difference between the team picked last and the team that finishes first is 0. There is 0 difference between the team that was picked to finish last in this league and actually finish first.
Yeah, we just watched it happen.
We watched it happen. I think we almost watched it happen last year. West Virginia was picked to finish last, and they finished near the top of the conference. Every little bit counts. And especially on special teams. And honestly, and we talked about this, if Kerry was back coaching corners, I would have been okay with that. But something on special teams had to change. It's 1/3 of the game. And that 1/3 of the game over the last 5 weeks was costly in, every game but Kansas State was close. And special teams was a problem in all of them. And when that is the case, a change has to be made. There's nothing scapegoat. Nobody is looking at Kerry and saying, well, they're 8-16 because Kerry Combs was on staff. What they are saying is the margin of error is small and special teams wasn't good enough. And it has to get better, and we're going to get better from the outside. That's not scapegoating somebody. I think it's just lazy. It's just as lazy as after every loss, and I'm not saying this about Scott Satterfield, I'm saying this in general. After every loss, somebody's got to be fired. Somebody's got to be held accountable. That's stupid. It's a lot more nuanced than that. But when you get to the offseason, you have to look back and say, what are the things that we can incrementally improve so that we're winning some of these coin flip games instead of losing them? So that when you have that meter, Dave, that they show every week of the game difference or whatever, I forget whatever the hell it's officially called. Cincinnati was supposed to win, but they lost.
Yeah,
well, you got to look at it.
It's the how bad did we get beat?
Right.
And I think it was 4 times, if not 5, that how bad did we get beat? Well, by the numbers, we didn't lose, and by the scoreboard, we did.
Right. So if you're looking at, okay, how are we going to, fix the margins? How are we going to improve in the margins? And maybe they hire a worse special teams coach. I don't know. We don't know that until the guy's in place and we start seeing results on the field. But what we do know is special teams was, in part, culpable for the way that the end of the season played out. So a change had to be made there. That's not scapegoating somebody. Like, I think it's just lazy. I think it's wanting to defend a friend from some of the people I saw it out of, which is understandable. Like, you're gonna stick by your guys. I get that. But the reality is the job in that phase wasn't good enough. And it has to get better. And sometimes you have to do something you don't necessarily want to do, but things need to be done at this level. Gary's always been great to us. Like, I have no issue with Gary Combs and what he has given a ton to this university. But much like his end at Ohio State, where he was the defensive coordinator and their defense wasn't good enough, Ohio State made a move to get better. That's the nature of this business.
Yeah, it's it's bottom line, and let's be real. I mean, like, the head coach, he needs to do what he thinks needs to be done to get the team going in a better direction so he can keep his job too.
Right.
Like, it's, you see this, this certainly wasn't the case here, but like, coaches don't want to fire their assistants. I mean, how many times have we seen you can either make some staff changes or you can find a new job, and the coach always he's always going to make the staff changes, or I guess I'm sure there's one random time where coach was like, I'm not firing my guys. I'll die on my sword for them. And they would get fired too, just because he would get fired. But yeah, the defensive backs haven't played great, and part of that is eval, part of that is coaching. Like, you can't pin it all on coaching, but how much of the eval was carries, and how much was the coach, was the actual in-game, in practice coaching part of it. But you watch the defense. The defense seemed to stabilize and at least acquit themselves well enough to win games, minus the pass game and special teams. This team was I feel like, the old cliche, your record is what it is. I agree. But I feel like this team played better than 5 wins, but there were a couple glaring things that kept them from those 6th or 7th wins in some cases.
What are the chances new DB coach could also bring players with them? It's always a possibility.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think you hire somebody because they can bring one guy, but when you bring in somebody new, there's always going to be a possibility that, guys are on the vine, that they're recruiting them to transfer to their school, or, whatever. They've got a relationship.
Would be very low on my priority list. Like, I'm trying to get the best coach I can get. Someone that has a proven track record of, in this case, defensive back. Yeah. A proven track record of having successful defensive backs, turning the ball over, limiting explosive plays, just limiting passing yards limiting passing yards in general. All the things that go into it. But like
tackling.
Yeah, if that guy happens to have some guys that love him that much, I feel like you see that. That's probably a rarity with position coaches, where they're like, "Oh, I'm going to follow my position coach."
Right.
You see it more of like a whole staff, but if he has,
we might see the whole, like the first ever entire roster change, Dave.
Yeah.
Have you seen this? Have you seen the Marshall thing?
No, they got like a lot of guys in the portal.
So their coach left after a very successful season.
Yeah, that one was weird. He was coaching in the final year of his contract. They like wouldn't give him an extension because there's no reason he would go from Marshall to Southern Miss.
So apparently there's some kind of disconnect between him and the AD. They didn't like each other for whatever reason. But the word is essentially the entire team is going in the portal.
I've seen a lot of Marshall guys go in the portal.
No, I mean the entire team. Like 75, 80 guys are planning to go in the portal. And a bunch of them could follow him to Southern Miss.
Yeah, could. Yeah.
So you might see the first, the first instance of, oh, that's okay. The AD wants to do us like that. We're all gone.
Yeah.
Turn off the lights. See you guys later.
Yeah, we out.
Like, I wore it today to take Kelsey to school. I almost wore my Marshall hoodie today in a sign of solidarity for my alma mater. In potentially the entire team leaving. Any changes on the offensive side of the ball? To this point, I have only heard potential changes defensively. I don't know exactly how to feel about that, other than I know, a large majority of this offensive staff, that was kind of their first year together here. Like I know Pete came with Satterfield, Pete Thomas, and Cardwell came with him. But there was a lot of moving parts in the offseason last year, and some of it came together late. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them say, we want a full year. Now we've got tape. Like I said, I would want to see, let's go out and explore what some other teams are doing to kind of solve this drop 8, situation. I do think as you got towards the end of the year, Sorsby started to look to run a little bit more, especially because teams were dropping 8. So there really wasn't a whole lot in and around the box. So if he saw an exit, go get yourself that 15 yards.
Well, and it's my number one thing that I want to see them get in the portal is, and I don't think I'm giving any trade secrets away. Like the speed element in the wide receiver room needs to increase quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's not even the speed element. Like
some of it was just continuing plays, or
I need to see some dudes that can make some plays, that can turn a 10-yard gain into a 35-yard gain. Like just some big playability that is not necessarily all just air yards down the sideline or down the middle. Like,
right.
How do we get the ball in some guys' hands that are just better athletes than the defense? Like, I felt like the receiver group, the pass catching group as a whole, was significantly better than last year. But that element of 10-yard hook route or 15-yard crosser where the guy just runs away from the defense for another 20 to 25 yards or whatever, still wasn't there.
Yeah.
So if you ask me the one thing I want out of the portal, it's that. I know we need DBs and that's important too, but I harped on it on the brunch and with you, they got to score more points, man. You can talk to me all you want about defense. You got to be over 30 on average.
24 or 25 in this league ain't going to cut it.
No, not even close. So they need, you have, hopefully, I never anymore with the portal. I never consider anybody back, safe, but Evan Pryor, he's got that gear. Tony Johnson, I thought
maximized, what he could do. I think
when they moved him inside, he's got that two-way ability. I think he proved he can play at the Big 12 level. That was clear. You need some more dudes. You need some guys that can run away from people.
Yeah. With the offers to transfer O-linemen, any insights on the development of underclassmen O-linemen? We'll get to that a lot more in the spring. The main thing, Arpasto, is they lost their starting left tackle. They lost their starting left guard. They lost their starting right guard. They lost their starting or somewhat starting right tackle. So you're going to need bodies. You're going to need add some dudes out of the transfer portal. I think
wait, linemen are. I don't care what your offensive line situation is. You should be looking
need
to add some.
Yeah. But I'm saying, especially,
right.
You lost a lot, so you're gonna
Yeah.
have to go out and get some. I know they like Evan Tengestal and what he showed filling in last year. Gerhardt's back at center.
DeAndre
I think
Buford should be back, right?
Buford is back. So does he play guard? Do they need him at right tackle?
I mean, you at least have a guy that you know what he is at this point, and that at least you're not super hard up for.
You have one starter, one semi-starter or partial starter, and then another guy that played a lot because of injuries in Tengestal. It's a massive year for Ethan Green to see if he's able to do this at this level. Xavier Lozowicki, who they brought in last year as a transfer, it will be a big offseason for him. Judea Milan, I think, is a guy that you could see move forward. And then, you've got some young guys that came in last year. And then Zach even said, and I don't think he said this as we want to see these guys in the ones, but he felt that there were guys coming in this recruiting class that could press to get into the twos.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two guys I'd be most interested to watch in the spring is Zach Clark and Aiden Pastoriza. Like, can one of those guys be one of your tackles?
Right. So they've got bodies that they like, but they don't have enough of them. Like, you want 10, 11 offensive linemen that, you feel can populate your 2 deep, because we've seen in years past, Dave, once you got back past like 6, it was like, I don't want any of those guys on the field after. We've also seen years where they're like 4. Like, I don't want anybody after those 4. Like, we know we got to get 1, but if there's an ankle sprain, like, we're in big trouble for a couple of weeks.
I mean, you're typically wanting, and I don't have the depth chart in front of me or anything or the full roster, but like, you're typically wanting 15 linemen.
Yeah.
That not counting walk-ons.
Yeah. You want 9 or so of them at least that you feel somewhat confident in. Natty Ron, we're getting to basketball here in just a minute, so we're almost there. Badias just started watching. Holy shit, Dontay is on. Dude is a legend. Hopefully he keeps commenting an hour and 20 minutes behind, because I love when people do that. It's one of my favorite things that, we'll catch up eventually. How much say does Vite have in hiring the defensive assistants? I would guess a lot. Now.
I would hope.
You brought him in at a point last year where you couldn't do a whole lot to change the staff to fit his style, his philosophy, whatever. And again, we talked about this. He came in after the winter portal closed, so he couldn't even add players really that he wanted. And they had added so many DBs in the portal last year. There weren't a whole lot of spots to add DBs in the spring because those rooms were already getting pretty crowded. So I would assume he's going to have a heavy influence, Josh, in additions to the defensive staff this offseason. It's logical. Let him get some of his guys and bring him in here. And I'm curious. One thing I'll be watching, I don't know how this would work. Does he find his way back to linebackers, or does he stay with safeties?
Right.
Because that's a man that has coached linebackers for a long time. So I'll have my eye on that. But yeah. Anything else football related, David? We've gone 90 minutes on football.
I don't think
the crosstown shootout. All right. Let's timestamp that football talk. Brought to you by Turtles Brew. 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, 6% ABV. It's a bourbon-infused sweet tea. They have strawberry mint and lemonade tea and cherry lime and raspberry peach and orange vanilla. There's more than 50 locations in greater Cincinnati, over 100 in Ohio. If you're looking for information or the location nearest you, go to turtlesbrew.com. Bourbon infused sweet tea. Great summer drink because of the infusion, the fruit, the kind of fruity summery feel, but because of the bourbon, it's also a good winter drink. So huddling up around a fire, get you some Turtles Brew, maybe a little new riff to go with it, add a little kick, and you're good to go. But that's football, Dave. It's time to get to the Crosstown Shootout. And the Crosstown Shootout talk is brought to you by Home Field Apparel. Home Field is the leader in vintage, authentic, logoed Cincinnati apparel. They have stuff from the 40s and the 50s all the way through logos into the 90s and 2000s. Great material, great whatever it is that you're looking for. T-shirts, crew necks, hoodies, joggers, jackets, windbreakers, weather apparel, socks, koozies, you name it. Home Field's got it. They've got a wide variety to choose from, multiple pages of options. So get to homefieldapparel.com. And not only do they cover UC, they cover pretty much everybody in the college landscape. They've even got the College of Mines, which was one of my favorites until the dog chewed a hole in it. What can you do? The dog liked that shirt just as much as Dad did, apparently. But go to homefieldapparel.com, enter code BCJ24, save yourself 15% off of your order. Look, shootout week, there's going to be a lot of breakdowns. I think we spent a lot of time breaking it down on Monday. Aaron and I will probably do something tomorrow, breaking down the Crosstown Shootout.
Three keys to victory.
3 keys to victory. It's simple, Dave. Go win the damn game. You're on a 5-game losing streak to Xavier. You have the better team. You're playing at home. You have a lot on the line. Like,
yeah,
essentially your non-conference portion of the schedule is on the line because you lost to Villanova. You've got Xavier. You've got Dayton. Georgia Tech doesn't look like it's going to help a whole lot. So you have to win these last 2. You do not want to go into conference play behind the 8 ball again. Again, we're talking about the math, right? There is, I think, good potential for this team, especially the way that we've seen kind of the Big 12 play out over the first month and a half of the season. There is not this group of 5 teams that is clearly separated itself from the pack like we thought coming into the season. There's a lot of teams that are, maybe all of them. Iowa State is probably looking the best right now. That are all going to be in this
kind
group.
of 1.5, like Iowa State and Kansas.
And then 3 through 12, 3 through 10, 12, something like that, look like it's going to be a nightly war. You need to win Saturday. You need to win a week from Friday against Dayton. But you can't do that. Like, it's got to start Saturday. And just going through the matchups. Ryan Conwell is really good for X. Zach Fremantle is really good for X. Davion McKnight is not playing particularly well. Trey Green, I guess, if you listen to Rick Broering, if you pay attention to everything that's going on, I guess they are preserving his opportunity to get a medical red shirt. He played 9 games. I think 9 games is the limit for him to play in order to be eligible. If he can get a medical red shirt, you can only play in 30% of the games.
In order to transfer when the season's over?
It could be a transfer. He hasn't played really. So you would lean towards that. But even if it's I'm not going to play this year, so I want a red shirt and then come back next year and still be a sophomore. I'm not in the weeds with that
Right.
stuff over there. But it does sound like, at least, there's a good chance that this is to try to get him a medical red shirt. So that means we won't be seeing him in the crosstown shootout. Cincinnati has the better team, but that hasn't mattered a whole lot in this series.
No.
When Cincinnati's had the better team, they've still lost a pretty solid amount of time. Whatever it takes, you have to win this game.
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today of like just the starters really is like, where does each team have like a pretty clear advantage? I think they have a clear advantage with Fremantle and how we would cover him. And then I think we have a clear advantage with Jizzle, Dan, and CMOS. And just bottom line is your best players have to play like your best players. Like, I know we've talked about all these years where some random dude from Xavier jumps up and hits 4 threes or does something that he hadn't done all year and didn't do after that. You know why that was amplified is because our best players didn't play like our best players. If that would have happened, random dude hitting 4 threes wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. That only matters when guys you count on don't play worth a damn. And, 2 things I'm looking at. I need to see some effing attitude. like get a technical in the put somebody into the basket support. Like, we have played, especially at the beginning of these games, for so long, so soft and so tentative. I know you guys talked about it on Monday night. Somebody in the mailbag mentioned like the 12-minute mark in the score. I looked at like the first TV timeout. 5 years in a row we've lost. 5 years in a row they've been losing at the first TV timeout. Some by a point or 2, some by 5 or 6 points. Like, how are you down 6 points at the first TV timeout in a game that you should be the better team? It sets the tone right away. Every year it feels like they are ready to play. They jump out early, and we're playing catch up the whole rest of the game.
Cincinnati's tight. They're tight.
Show me some attitude. Show me some, not anger in the sense of like throwing a punch, but it bothers me so much that it's like rinse and repeat every year in this game of 15 minutes. Xavier's up 4. We've turned the ball over 3 times and we're 0 for 4 from 3.
The Bearcat mark stat is still the most disturbing one.
That they've won like every game that would be considered close.
7 points or fewer over the last 35 years. The game has been decided by 7 points or fewer 14 times. Cincinnati has won once. 1-13 in close games in a 35-year stretch.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's the difference. Why is Xavier taking control of this series over the last 20 years? It's because when the game is close, Xavier wins.
Well, and because they have the confidence of we have won this game, whether it was Sean and then Chris and now back to Sean. Even what was his name? Travis Steele. They have the confidence that we're going to come out and we're going to be the aggressor and we're going to start fast and we're going to make them play catch up the whole rest of the way. Now, a lot of those years, UC didn't really have the, I guess you could say, firepower to play catch up. I think this team is different in that sense, but I mean, we saw it in the Nova game. Like, there's always the other side of the coin of yeah, you're a good shooting team and you're one bad shooting night away from losing to Villanova. So, yes, we have the firepower, but how about for once we don't have to like use it? Like, how about for once you have a couple dudes that are way more athletic and way more bouncy and way more explosive than anybody they have on their roster. Like,
Conwell can be that.
But he can be, but I think he wants to get his from the 3 line.
For the most part, yes. I think the biggest thing in terms of like when I've watched them play well, they are doing so against a defense that is not applying a ton of pressure, against a defense that is allowing them. They run that weave out top, and then their actions off of the weave out top. The teams that have stymied them have kind of grinded that weave action out top to a halt, which takes away their ability to get into the variations that they run off of it.
Yeah,
the teams that allow them to just run the weave and set up what they want to do off of it, they have been able to find rhythm offensively.
Yeah.
They're not a great defensive team. So they don't have rim protection. They're not a great rebounding team if you look at their roster. So you have to go out there and say, we're getting every rebound. We're getting every loose ball, and we are going to do everything we can to keep them from getting into their flow offensively. The caveat with that is you have to do those things without fouling because they want to live at the free throw line. And the teams that really make them struggle hold them to 10 or 15 or less free throw attempts in games. If you let them get to the line 20, 25 times, they're going to make a bunch of them. They have good shooters, especially the guys with the ball in their hands, and then Fremantle, like Hunter, those guys can knock down free throws. So you have to make sure, do not put yourself in a situation where they're in the bonus at the under 12 timeout in the second half, right? Because then they're just going to keep crashing into you, going to the free throw line, and turning. They take away your ability to get stops if you do that. So that's always something that I know everybody talks about, the free throw disparity between the two teams. For whatever reason, this team is not built to get to the free throw line a lot. And Xavier doesn't play an aggressive style of defense. They play pack line. They're not going to look to pressure you, really. So you're not going to get fouled a whole lot. So you have to make sure that they don't have some 15, 17 point disparity in free throw makes.
Right.
Because that's going to keep them in the game, even if you do the things that you're supposed to do. If you rebound and, you get on the floor and you do a good job getting them out of their offense, if you let them get free points, they're going to take advantage and they're going to be able to hang around. So, those are some of the things that I look at that you stress about. And then Cincinnati has been pretty good about this overall. You've got to get them off of the free throw line. The one thing, though, that has bothered me in the last couple games, and it started with NKU. We saw it with Villanova. We even saw it with Howard to an extent. You can't let them get in a rhythm early. Like, I don't know what you could really do. Like in the NKU game, they made them take a bunch of tough shots, and NKU hit shots over the top of the defense, and you gain confidence from that. But you cannot let them be shooting 60% 10 minutes into the first half, because that's going to carry over for most. You're in a rhythm. You're seeing it well. All of a sudden, you're playing with confidence and you're scoring with confidence. You have got to get in them, get them out of their offense, make them take tough shots, make them turn it over, or they don't even get a shot up. And then you can build off of that on the offensive end. The offensive stuff, I know I'm in my Mick Cronin mode here, but scoring will come if you do the other stuff well. And I'm confident with that because I think this team has enough offensively to generally be good.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I know, Ken Palm is the general rule of thumb on those things. And I know that our defensive rating is pretty darn high on Ken Palm, but I'm still, maybe I'm just maybe I just have an unrealistic view. Like, I don't see it that way. Like, I don't see the multiple possessions where this team like really sits down and gets into people and truly makes it hard for them to even like get a decent shot off, let alone, score, make it back. I mean, the first half of the Howard game, the Villanova game, you talk about the first half of NKU, that was some pretty tough shot making. But like, I'm like, who's Conwell probably, but like, you shouldn't be afraid of anybody getting by you.
Right. Well, and getting Dan back is going to help some because that just increases your length.
I think it's going to help. I think it's going to help a lot. I mean, if he can give you, if he's in back to somewhere in that, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 minute.
I don't think you're going to see him at 30, but 20, 22, 23 minutes, I think is reasonable.
That would be huge from that standpoint of especially rebounding and the length and the athleticism. And I mean, I'm right there with you. Shots come and go, but I'm not really worried about this team scoring. You've talked about, like, Xavier is not a sit down and really make you grind out an offensive possession type team. Like, I think Jizzle and Day should be as downhill in this game as any so far this year.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's to score, to draw a foul, to pass, like, get them on their heels. Like, right from the jump. Drive it right into whoever's chest. Make them set the tone right away that this is how this game is going to go. Like, make them truly.
Because they don't really have anybody that you should be afraid of.
Right.
At the rim.
So.
But where are you watching? What's your plans?
From my couch.
You didn't get mom and aunt's tickets for this one?
No. No.
Not an easy ticket.
I'll be watching on ESPN Plus. Apparently.
I do get a kick out of the fan base across town complaining about the ESPN Plus thing and wanting to remind them that, next year when the Big 12 and the Big 10 are the predominant inventory, I guess that's the right word for it, the predominant inventory on Fox and FS1, there's going to be a lot of streaming in their future. So I'd get used to it. I get used to it.
I don't even know where would it be. Fox doesn't really have a streaming platform.
So the Peacock, I think, is NBC is coming in as part of the deal, and then there's another streaming service that in their new Big East Media deal that's like part of the process. But
Flow Sports, is that it?
They're actually all of their Olympic sports are on Flow Sports, the Big East.
I can only imagine what those broadcasts are like.
Yeah. Who you got, Dave?
I mean, just show me you can win.
Yeah, it's good. The line's going to be interesting because all the metrics, I think Torvik had it at 9. Ken Palm had it at 10. Evan Maya had it at 11. So all of the analytics sites are saying Cincinnati fairly comfortably.
Yeah,
I'm
apprehensive to believe those. Maybe that's just a lot of scar
PTSD.
tissue.
Yeah, it's PTSD.
A lot of who the F is this guy that just made his the three. I mean, I want to pick just, I feel like UC's a better team. I don't really take a ton from Xavier's destruction of Morgan State last night, just like I don't take much of like in correlation to this game. Like, you can't really look at any game before it. It's a totally unique animal all to itself. Like we said, UC's the better team. I think they got the better players. I think there's some particular matchups that obviously favor them, but that's been the case several other times, and it hasn't worked out. I just need to see him do it.
I think that's the key. I think they're in a position. Did you see the numbers on? Somebody put this on the Xavier board today of their high school recruiting since 2018.
Whose?
Xavier.
No.
It's like 20.
Did you ask me if I saw something on the Xavier board?
I mean, it's shootout week. I didn't know if you were perusing. It's something like they signed 20 high school kids in that time frame, and the only ones that have really worked out are Zach Fremantle, Colby Jones, and Dalen Swain, I guess, a little bit. This is all in light of Trey Green kind of seemingly fizzling.
Right.
Here, I'll read it for you. This is fun. Elijah Tucker transfer.
I know there were a couple years in there where Chris Mack did like a 6-7 man.
It happened last year
in every recruiting class.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Jake Walters prison. Kiki Tandy transfer. Zach Fremantle. Demir Bishop transfer.
Oh, you said prison. I was like, what?
Zach Fremantle, obviously good. Demir Bishop transfer. Deontay Miles transfer. Daniel Ramsey transfer. DeJuan Odom transfer. CJ Wilcher transfer. Colby Jones NBA. Cesare Edwards transfer. Elijah Tucker transfer. Cam Kraft transfer. Desmond Claude transfer. Dalen Swain, solid. Trey Green, Reed Ducharme, Kachi Enze, Sasha Siani, Lazar Djokovic, all transfers. And then 2024, they didn't recruit anybody in high school.
Where did Desmond Claude go?
USC, I think.
Oh, okay. He was pretty good.
He wanted to play point guard, and they didn't think he was good enough for that, so he left.
Okay.
What'd you think of the blackouts? The new unis?
You and I are the wrong people to get an opinion on jerseys. It's just, I mean, I thought the video was cool. I think they're cool. I like them, but like it's not something that I'm just like, oh my God, did you see those uniforms?
I think I've only really done it once, Dave. The cats. The script, the cats across the those were I love those.
And maybe I know I'm the wrong person because I think I am on Lonely Island of absolutely loving the Adidas Zuba
the Zubaz.
Yes, especially the white shorts. I had a pair of those and left them at a hotel, and to this day, it angers me that I do not have those.
You could probably find a pair on eBay somewhere.
I don't care that much to search, but but no, I mean, I think they'll look sweet. If they lose by whatever number. Is anyone going to care? So,
yeah, I'm looking. I see some 95, 96 retro shorts. I don't see any of the Zubaz, Dave.
yeah.
I gave it a look for you.
So no, I mean, they're cool. They always, I mean, UC's done awesome uniforms for a long time. So
it's one of the things that they've always done really well.
It's hard to screw up black, red, and white. Let's be honest.
Very true. It's I think the best color combo in the game. Red, black, white.
So no, they're cool. I hope they use them and it propels them to victory and they wear them for every game the rest of the season.
So you're picking Xavier.
I'm not picking anybody.
I
can't
right.
in good conscience and I can't.
You also can't say show me, like I'll believe it when I see it. Like that's not a pick.
I know it's not. I didn't say it once.
Fine. Natty Ron's got UC 67, Xavier 63.
I don't like it. I don't like UC in any game that's in the 60s.
Yeah. I prefer him being the 70s. Ron, if you could change that to 71, Dave would feel a lot better about things.
Yeah, 71, 63.
If it's 67, 63, that's not it's 13-1 in close games.
Yeah, it's if it's in the 60s, that means we're not making shots and they're staying in the game, maybe with free throws, and it's a too close for comfort in the final 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
You get into the 70s, you get in, then I feel a little bit better about our chances.
Remember, there will be a Cincy Light booth. Stop by, pick up some merch. They've got a really cool Cincy Light basketball shirt that they are releasing for the shootout. Gates open a half hour early, Dave. So the game starts at 2. It's usually 90 minutes before the game. They're opening them at noon. So you can get the happy hour $5 Cincy Lights from noon until 1:30. So get in there, get a little Saturday sauce going, get a little hyped up, and get ready for what should be a great Skyline Chili crosstown shootout. If you can't make it, look, we got you covered wherever you are in Cincinnati. Holy Grail, Remington Tavern, Hail Mary Sports Bar, Mio's. Well, that's going to be chaos at Mio's. Maybe get to Mio's like right as the game is starting if you're going to go to Mio's. Mio's is going to be, that'd be crowded. Shootout day, be crowded at Mio's before the game. But all of those places are proud sponsors of Bearcat Journal, huge Bearcat fans. So West Side, downtown, Clifton, wherever you are, go support our sponsors. Get yourself some ice cold Cincy Light, and hopefully we see a victory because it's going to be much easier. I'm tired of talking about losses after the game. I'm tired of it. I don't feel like doing it anymore. It's going to wrap it up. Dave, good to talk to you. Great job, as always, by producer extraordinaire Aaron Smith. This is the BCJ Podcast, live from the Cincy Light Studios, presented by the Holy Grail, right here on BearcatJournal.com.